You ever wake up one morning, stretch out on your own porch with a hot cup of coffee, breathing in that sharp pine air, thinking, hey, maybe this is the year everything finally calms down? And then by sundown, you're knee-deep in some drama that makes you question how civilization survived this long. Yeah, that's how my life's been lately. And honestly, if you told me 3 years ago I'd have to fight tooth and nail just to keep a bunch of strangers from bossing me around on my own land, I'd have laughed right in your face. But here I am, CEO by weekday, reluctant warrior, on weekends learning more about property law, neighborly politics, and the twisted joy of poetic justice than I ever cared to. Let me back up a sec. Not too long ago, I bought what I thought was my forever spot, 5 acres of old growth trees just outside the city, with a little custom cabin tucked at the edge. After 15 years grinding away at my tech company, I needed a place to just breathe, to get away from the emails and the meetings and the relentless ping of everyone needing something right now. My realtor swore up and down this land was outside the dreaded HOA that ran the main subdivision next door. And believe me, I made him show me the papers because I've heard the horror stories. He handed me the deed, highlighted the exclusion clause, and I walked away thinking, all right, peace at last. You know what I mean. For a good 2 years, that's exactly what I had. During the week, I kept my head down in a tiny condo downtown running the business. Fridays, I'd toss my stuff in the truck, drive 30 minutes out, and suddenly the world got quiet. The sky felt bigger, and the only neighbors I heard were birds and the occasional deer. I built a little workshop out back, fixed up old radios and shelves, did my own thing, never bothered anybody. For a long while, nobody bothered me. And then came Margaret. Oh boy, Margaret. Imagine someone who wears HOA president like it's an Olympic medal and has the smile of a Disney villain, except without the charm. One Saturday, she just shows up on my deck, clipboard in hand, talking about how she's reaching out to all residents and how there's a mandatory community meeting coming up. I set down my coffee, told her politely that sorry, I'm not part of the HOA, never was, never will be. Instantly, that smile froze, like she just sucked on a lemon. That's not possible, she snaps. Every property here is in the HOA. She didn't want to see my paperwork, but I showed it anyway. She huffed, promised to look into it, then stomped off, straight down my driveway like she owned it. A week later, I get this envelope that looks all official except for the fact that it's a total joke. The HOA claims my place is in violation of like 6 bylaws, including unauthorized structure, my workshop failure to pay 3 years of dues, and my favorite conducting prohibited business activities on residential land. Apparently, they'd Googled me and saw I was a CEO, so taking a Zoom call from my own deck meant I was running a corporate outpost or something. The letter says I have to demolish my shop, cough up over $3,000 in fees, and either quit my job or sell my house within 60 days. Yeah, let that sink in. So I do what any half-sane person would I call my lawyer. He laughs harder than I did. They have no jurisdiction, he says, but let's send a cease and desist just to shut it down. Except, of course, it doesn't. Next weekend, I come back and there are bright orange stickers slapped all over my workshop and mailbox saying HOA violation. I'm peeling one off when, like she was summoned by the HOA spirits, Margaret shows up phone recording accusing me of destroying HOA property. She says the board has voted to incorporate my land, calls my place an eyesore, and says if I don't obey, I'll be hearing from their lawyer. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to reason with someone who treats rules like they're holy scripture, but there's no point. I explain again calmly that my land has never been in their HOA, and they can't just vote to absorb me like the Borg. She leaves promising a lawsuit. 3 days later, I get served. I kid you not, they're claiming some loophole in county zoning means my property benefits from their community, so I should be under their thumb. My lawyer is giddy. This is harassment, abuse of process, textbook stuff, he says. Let's countersue. What follows is 6 months of pure petty hell. The HOA parks cars on the edge of my land, taking pictures like I'm a zoo animal. People remind me about violations every time I pull in. One morning I find my front gate padlocked with their lock. I have to call a locksmith while my lawyer photographs the evidence. But the kicker, the absolute kicker, Happens when I host a company retreat out there for my exec team. 5 of us eating sandwiches on the porch, talking strategy, not a soul bothering us. And here comes Margaret marching in with 2 board members like she's leading an FBI raid. She declares for all to hear that commercial activity is taking place and threatens to call the county. My COO, who does not play calmly, tells her she's trespassing and to leave. When they refuse, I call the sheriff. The deputy shows up, listens for about 2 minutes, and then tells Margaret, point blank, that my land is not under her HOA, and if she doesn't leave, she's getting arrested for trespassing. That look on her face worth every penny in legal fees. We finally get to court. The HOA's lawyer tries to sell the judge this idea that my land benefits from being near their community, so I should be forced to join, like proximity is some kind of contract. The judge just stares at him and says, "Are you suggesting that mere proximity gives you governance over this property?" He flips through my deed, sees the exclusion, and just shakes his head. Case dismissed. Our countersuit granted. HOA has to pay my legal fees, almost 30 grand, plus 75,000 in damages, and a permanent injunction says no HOA member can set foot on my land without written permission. And just when I thought the fun was over, the county audits the HOA and finds that, surprise, surprise, Margaret's been using association funds for her own landscaping. She's out as president, the board gets overhauled, and I get a formal apology plus an offer to settle for more money if I promise not to sue them into the Stone Age. I use the cash to build a guest cabin and upgrade my security cameras just in case any community-minded citizens want to try again. Now, you might be thinking, sure you won, but was it worth all the stress? Here's the twist. Not only did I keep my sanctuary, but the story made local business news, brought in new clients who liked my backbone, and I ended up spending even more time at the cabin. Margaret, last I heard, she sold her house at a loss and moved into a city condo. I almost feel bad for her new neighbors. Almost. And that, my friends, is what happens when you try to muscle someone who's actually read the paperwork. If you're wondering, I'm still CEO, still spend half my life in those woods, and you better believe every inch of my property is covered with security cameras, just in case the next Margaret tries something cute. So tell me, where do you draw the line when someone in power overreaches? Is it better to fight back and risk the headache, or just give in for an easy life? Drop your thoughts below. I know there are some wild stories out there. And hey, if you ever had to stand your ground against a neighborhood bully, share what happened. I bet there's more of us than folks realize.